Well, this is the old guy in self-containment, but I'm out in my car up in the lower Litchfield Hills, and everything's closed. The Sherman Library is closed, but I have internet out here. And I have an old story. I have a friend who's a sculptor, very good one, and he's working on this incredible looking sculpture of a scene in trench warfare in World War One, and it's it's getting near finished. It's really something to see. Um, there's a lot of history with that in his family of artists, um, but it brought back an old memory of my mother was born in 1910. She died many years ago. And my father was born in 1898 and died many years ago. And but my mother was born and raised in the local area, and she remembers being a little girl, and the railroad tracks came through town because there's a station, big station in our town, and she remembers troop trains stopping. They live near the railroad tracks up by a bridge up by Lake Avenue there. And families and people would come out. There's a beautiful bird out there, a cardinal. And, anyway, I got distracted. Anyway, she remembers bringing hot, wet towels baked in the oven and hot towels out to the troop trains, which would stop for periods of time. And they were long trains, so that they would load and unload at the station, and they would head out towards from New York to who knows where, up to New Haven, to get on troop ships to go to the war in Europe. And she said that the soldiers, the troops on the ship, were very fastidious and very cleanly, and that's why they brought the towels out, so they could take these wet, hot, and dry towel baths. And back then it was considered very unseemly to not be a well-groomed, dapper, sharp-looking soldier. Beards were not that much in it, and if you did have a very well-groomed haircuts, everything. And she remembers bringing out the towels, and other families came down, did the same, and they brought out, homemade breads, rolls, and soaps. They made soaps, and they would bring out shaving implements and other kinds of self-care travel stuff that they could use, and that was amazing. She was telling me how they went out and supported the troops like that, and she also remembers the flu pandemic of 1918 and 19. She said it was terrible. Where we lived in the town, she said it didn't hit for some reason so badly in the town we lived in. The town I call Still River was a big hatting industry town. I don't know, but I think because of the industry and all the acids and dyes they used, that were even the smell was I can remember smelling some of it in the air, and they would dump it in the rivers, and I think it disinfected the area, maybe, and that's what caused the lack of serious. But what happened? This woman, epidemiologist, wrote this book on that flu virus, and she supposedly said it began in an army camp in Tennessee, training camp, moved across the United States as troops moved, and they went over to Europe to the war theater, trench warfare, which was horrible. Conditions were absolutely horrible, and the flu mutated over there. I mean, 1/3 of some countries were wiped out. It got a lot more serious. But over here, it started to dissipate after months, and people lifted restrictions and went back to living normal social lives. But then troops, I guess, or people came back from Europe, and a reinfection started happening with the more deadlier version. So I'm hoping that does not happen here. So I'd be careful about, lifting restrictions. The 15-day quarantine or containment and the 6-foot social distance, those are pretty arbitrary. Those are human guidelines developed. It doesn't mean that after 6 feet the virus says, "Oh, I only can go out 6 feet," and 15 days and I'm dead. I'm gone. That may not be necessarily in neat boxes and true, as I spoke of. And so, this virus spreads by aerosol and droplets in the air and surfaces and touching. And so, you look at these maps and you get the mindset that, the virus is like, well, I'm in New York now, and then I'm going to go and infect Delaware. It's not limited by state lines, obviously. And it's not limited by 15 days or 6 feet. Because context is everything. Where and how it happens will determine how it spread or isn't spread. So there's no guarantees. I mean, a test is a test. It's a snapshot in time. You could be tested negative one day. 2 days later, you could be positive because you picked it up. If you test negative, it doesn't mean you're scot-free. You can go out and back to living what we used to know as the normal life. But my feeling is, I don't think we're ever going to get back to what we used to call, in quotes, normal life. This is a age thing. It took a long time for these other viruses to, even AIDS, to dissipate. So anyway, that's the true story from what I heard from my mother, and so that's it. This is the old guy.